Amazing. Jaimie, welcome to Spark TV.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited. A, that you're here, but B, that you brought a wine. You're already my favorite person. So let's kick off by sharing the Bloom money story. So tell us like how you came up with the idea, what it is, what you do, and then I'm super keen to hear about your backstory. So how you actually got there.
Yeah. So Bloom Money, we started it, my sister and I are business partners, and we started it together last January. It was kind of a bit of a few events coming together. One, I was on mat leave when we started discussing the idea, and just one night at a family dinner, Olivia, who's been working for a tax firm for 5 years, was like, "Do you want to start a business?" Half joking, and I was like, "Yeah, okay, that sounds good," because I had just had a little bit of a thing happen. I had an accountant, and they did my husband's business's tax return, and I found like a few errors in there, and I just remember the service was so bad, and it's only because I knew what I was talking about, that it was so wrong, like so wrong. Like wanted us to pay like $50,000 extra in tax that we didn't owe.
What?
And only because I kept persisting that I so knew it was wrong, that we fixed it. And I ended up just taking it back, and I was like, I'm just going to lodge it myself. And that experience with someone who like I knew, so I was like, okay, the experience out there is not good. We need to offer this. There's such like a demand for this little market of really good accountants and really good service. So we kind of set on our mission to do that. And so it's nearly been 2 years actually since we've been into the Bloom journey.
That's so cool. And it's so true, right? Like it's so funny you say that. Like I know so many people who get confused with their finances, with their tax returns, with their, and the joke is always like, do creative accounting and get me a good deal and get me tax return. But it's not even that. Like whilst that's the joke, it's like, I just don't want to pay for shit that I shouldn't be paying for.
Totally. Exactly.
That's so cool. So what's your background? Is this both of your first business? Have there been other businesses, careers? You said your sister was in a tax advisory firm.
Yep. So I guess I've had a few businesses. Started back in me, my like entrepreneurial mind. Every time I'll come home and I'm like, at a family dinner, I'm like, I've got a new business idea, and my parents just like roll their eyes at me like, oh, here we go again. But
it's so good. I love it. I'm like that too. I'm like, I've got another idea to change the world. Listen in.
Totally. There's so many things to do to change the world. So little time. Got to do them all.
I know.
My first one in uni, I started a dog walking business, and I started
so good.
doing that, and then I don't know, I wasn't very good at sales and marketing, so I had like 2 clients, but it was good. It was good money.
Nice.
And then I kind of launched into a career in accounting. It was kind of the time of the global recession when I came out of uni looking for a job. Usually accountants go to like a tax firm, like that's where they start, and then you kind of move from there. But because no one was traveling to London and doing that whole tax thing, I couldn't get a job anywhere. And I don't know, I kind of cruised through uni, not really studying much. So my marks weren't that good. So no one really wanted me for the few positions that were left. So
I love the honesty. So good.
But so I went into, I started working for Flight Centre. So that's like in the finance team. And so I came in there when kind of the website was coming up and coming. So I'd just be like bank reconciling all the different websites. So that kind of gave me my first insight into like websites and e-commerce and how they all work and the different carriers and stuff. So that was really interesting.
That's actually super cool. Like that would be, I assume, like you go into a big tax or accounting firm and you kind of get pigeonholed into doing the same thing. Like
Yeah.
working then for a brand gives you that like inside view on how other businesses work. That's
It was,
cool.
yeah, literally like my dream job.
Mm.
I was like, yes, this is amazing. I love this travel and
Yeah.
accounting. It's perfect. So yeah, I love doing that. Um, and then from there, it also gave me the insight in actually sitting with the call center. So they really believe in like everyone kind of being together and like learning off the different departments. So I'd be in like, I could hear like the calls, and I could hear what was happening on the sales side. I could hear like what was happening in the marketing people. I'd sit right behind like the general managers. So I'd just hear like all the conversations, and it was really interesting to see how that came through in the numbers. And so yeah, I feel like it gave me like such a different kind of first job experience in understanding the numbers and work. And then part of my job was also working with different business leaders in them just understanding their profit and losses. So I did that like right from the start and just sat with them every month and just showed them their results. So yeah, that's like just understanding cost management and profit and losses, and then explaining that to people who aren't financially minded as well was like a really good skill developed from the start. From there, I was living on the Gold Coast, so I found a job locally working in hotels, so kind of in a similar role, doing like I had like a portfolio of hotels which I would do a similar thing for. And then I think I went back to Brisbane and back to the same company in Brisbane as like an area accountant and a commercial accountant. So I looked after like the state and some shops, and I would assist like retail stores and do some internal auditing and helping them build like efficiencies and work with the store managers on their results and help them understand their results and how they could make budget. So I'd set the budgets with them, and then every month check in and see if results weren't hitting budget, like why not, how we can fix that, what's happening in the store. Like I would sit in the store like all day, kind of just watching how like the actions in the store translated to the numbers and vice versa. And then I got married and went to London. So
Cool.
like the London stint for 12 months where I worked for a pharmaceutical startup, which
Cool.
was really interesting as well, kind of because I'd had that experience in what a finance team looks like. I was basically like from nothing putting in a whole finance structure and system so that they could like scale throughout Europe.
Wow.
So that was a really interesting job, working with different doctors and commercial managers on how to do that. Then I came back to Australia. I kind of been like I was kind of in between like contracting and consulting jobs while I have 3 kids now. So
Oh, wow.
yeah, so kind of just doing that on and off until Bloom.
Oh my God, what an adventure. I love that so much because that's such a cool story in terms of, you know, you studied a particular discipline, but you've kind of learned how to apply it in so many different ways. I feel like, you know, when we start businesses, we kind of usually start them around our skill set, but we have to learn so many different things. I kind of feel like you got to do that in, you know, a bunch of different roles before you dove in, and then kind of went, well, actually, I know how to do this for businesses. So we actually set up to really help the businesses that we do and run the accounting services for.
Yes, totally. I think we say that somewhere on our website, like we totally understand what it's like starting and running a small business, because they're over here doing the exact same things, really.
Yeah, that's so good. And now I'm a stalker on Instagram. Do you do courses as well?
Yes, we do. We just have the one at the moment. It's pretty new, but yeah, we do. Like just on that real first, if you first are starting up your business, or if you're I say it to people kind of that are just been winging it as well, because
Yeah.
you just kind of learn the basics of like what you need to think about when it comes to tax, and how do you pay yourself, like just the real what structure is best for you, rather than scrolling the internet and trying to find the answers yourself. Like I've just got it all there, ready to go. And yeah.
That's so good, because I feel like as business owners, you know, a lot of times as well, we're super creative types where we come from a particular industry. You know, it's typically finance isn't our strong suit. I know so many founders who are like, no, I don't want to look at numbers all day. I hate spreadsheets.
Yeah.
So I love that there's that support there. And I do love too that you're like, learn the basics. I think it is really important for business owners to not kind of pull the wool over their eyes, and to really understand what is going on inside their business.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's really tricky when people come to us for help after the fact. And that's usually when you want to engage an accountant, when you like, oh,
when you're like, oh crap, everything's falling apart.
The ATO is calling me. Can you help me? I'm like, I probably could have helped you better before. But yeah.
So that's a really interesting point. What do you think like business owners typically get wrong when they're kind of setting everything up?
I think firstly, I think what I do with my clients first off is just get what their intention for the business is straight.
Yeah.
Because if you don't know what you want, then it's really hard to get there. So if people are like, I want to have a flexible lifestyle where I can live in Bali and just work 3 hours a week, which is great, then you probably shouldn't be going and renting an office for 3 years and then employing people in Australia. And then otherwise you're just trying to do everything because you're like, oh, this will equal success, when it actually might not. Get the intent right, and then you kind of build your budget, I guess, around that. And yeah, that's probably one thing I think.
I think that's so awesome, because a lot of people I talk to on this podcast have a similar view, in the sense that it's so easy as business owners, when we kind of don't know what we're doing, to like read headlines or compare ourselves to other businesses and think that we have to do things a particular way. Like, think we have to have the fancy office, we have to have all the employees, and that is what a successful business looks like. But you're totally right. Like, that's not always success for different people, depending what you actually want. So I actually love that. You know, it's so funny. I think about it from a sales and marketing point of view. You start with the plan, you start with the strategy, and then you think about Instagram or influencers or whatever. Like, you don't start with, oh, I just paid this influencer $10,000. Now I'm going to think about whatever. I love that. It's like, do the same from a finance point of view. Really understand where you want the business to go, and that's going to dictate how you set it up and what decisions to make.
Yeah, definitely.
That's so cool. So what's it been like for you going from employee to business owner? What's that transition been like?
Gosh. I think I feel like I scaled down. Like,
yeah,
I was an employee and then I went to London just as a contractor. So that kind of felt like I didn't have to commit myself fully.
Yeah.
And then I traveled again, and then I was contractor again, and then I had a baby. And then I went back to work for a little bit, and then I had another baby, and then I started the business. And then it just like, I don't know, some days at the start, I think we made a couple of mistakes and kind of went a little bit too hard into like kind of like a contracting environment, and felt like we were just an employee and like accountable to like this like one particular client, and just always on demand for them. It just felt like we were employees. And then it's only really been, I guess, this year it's been a bit different. So
it is interesting. It's so funny. I think like, even if you do have the best of intentions, like you always kind of do fumble a little bit at the start. Like, you're kind of testing things out, and you kind of jump on opportunities because they seem like the thing. Yeah. And then you're like, oh, I don't really want this. Totally. I guess the good thing about having a business is, you know, you get to change your mind, which is nice.
Exactly. Yeah. and don't like, you don't not like have to go and be in the office by like 9 a.m. or something.
Yeah. Oh my God,
I don't
totally.
know if I could go back to that.
I know. And I don't know if I could like not work in my slippers anymore. Like I've always got slippers on at home and I absolutely love it. You just couldn't do that in a corporate office, could you?
No, unfortunately not.
I love it. So, okay. So then I'm thinking about the businesses you work with and look after. So kind of small businesses, startups, those types of people. And obviously, we said understanding the intention behind your business is kind of first things first so that you do actually set it up correctly. What about for people that have kind of been DIYing their finances? If they are looking to work with somebody, what do you think? Like, because I mean, I think about different accountants I've worked with over the years, and some of them do different things. Some people have been bookkeepers, some people have been accountants. I've worked with like people that specialize in R&D and worked with kind of small accountants and like your top tier big four, whatever they call them. And like, how do you even navigate that whole area as a small business owner who's been DIYing on a spreadsheet or maybe in Xero, and they're like, oh God, I need help. Like, where do you even suggest people start?
Yeah, I think one thing I get a lot is people are like, oh, my accountant just doesn't help me. They're just looking at, and they're probably just been engaged to do a tax return, which is like literally just an annual once-off engagement. They're probably not, I don't know, they might not even have, that's why your Xero question goes unanswered for 3 months or something crazy, like I hear people say. So I think, understanding I think accountants are obviously not very good with words and communication sometimes. So it's hard to actually know what you're actually looking for, and different kinds of accountants, just like there's different marketers, different types of marketing, there's definitely different types of accounting. So I think, and it's not, I think virtual CFO is what you're looking for if you're looking for someone, something more than a compliance side of accounting. So if you're looking something more return or about statement, if you were kind of at a point in your business where you're like, I can see the cash going in, I can see the cash going out, but I don't really know what my profit and loss is, but it seems to be going okay. What we do is we kind of start with like a one-on-one session, and we just kind of pull up the Xero file. I would just go through the two main reports, the profit and loss and the balance sheet, line by line, and we'll kind of work out what should be, if everything's in the right place, if anything's, and then kind of after we know that, then we kind of can translate that into like a budget or a like forecast out for the next few months. Or they might come to me and even say, I'm not paying myself at all, or I'm not paying myself and like even minimum wage. So we'll then work out, we can like review the different expenses that's going on, and then actually work out what the sales would actually look like for the business to break even when you're paying yourself what you want to pay yourself, and then go from there. And you could maybe think, well, I'm spending, look at different things, like I'm spending 80% of my sales on marketing or something, and look how we can like do, like think about, well, maybe we can, if we have a budget of this much, what could we do with that instead that will generate better, as like obviously just like those financial strategy around. And then you could go to that, whoever you use for that service, and then go, all right, well, I need this, or just that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. Like I love how you likened it to the marketing example, because you're so right. Like I think a lot of people go, my accountant should just do everything. And they should just be like coming up with cool ideas on how I can make more money and do things more efficiently. And you kind of think like a marketer would do that, right? Like they would be like, what's the marketing strategy? We've got all these different channels. It's our job to optimize, blah, 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 blah. But you're right. If you've just engaged an accountant to do your tax return every year, or your BAS or your payroll or whatever, not as a virtual CFO or a, whatever, the expectation isn't isn't that they're going to actually review all of your numbers and talk to you. And you're right. Like if they are just doing a tax return, then they're probably not sitting down with you and understanding what your goals are for the business. They probably don't even know that you want to pay yourself something or even more or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I love that. That's such a good tip. Like you kind of need to know what you want out of the relationship and have that conversation with them to see if they are that right person. And if they're not, then go out to find somebody that will tick those boxes.
Yeah, like to be honest, a lot of tax accountants don't even have that skill set. Like they don't like at uni, it's kind of like the subject is called management accounting, and then there's like tax accounting and finance accounting. Like most accountants hate management accounting, hate it. That is exactly kind of where this is, like breaking down the costs and the cost of sale and looking at those kind of things. Like not interested. Like Olivia loves the compliance side, does not like the budgeting forecasting side at all.
So is that the role you take? Do you do more of that kind of relationship driven stuff?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, that's so good. But like so cool though that you've got both sides so you can kind of bounce off each other.
Yeah, for sure.
How do you find working with your sister?
It's actually been really good. She's on the Gold Coast and I'm in Brisbane. So most of the time we aren't physically together. So I'm not sure what it'd be like if we were like together all day, every day. Yeah. So I think it works really well.
That's so good. Yeah, it's interesting, like co-founder kind of relationships. It's really good when you do have kind of separate interests and separate skill sets, because I think you like step on each other's toes a little bit less.
Yeah, for sure. Except I'm always like, let's film a reel. And she's like, no, I hate it.
I love it.
We have to.
I know, but that's why I like following you guys, because you actually make money interesting.
Thank you.
I mean, well, yeah, like you want it's funny to say that obviously in business, we need to make money or we don't have businesses.
Exactly.
But I think that the numbers side can be a little bit like overwhelming and boring for some people. They just want to like go out there and big dream, like work with clients, be creative, do all those things. So it's really cool that you guys actually translate, a potentially dry subject into something more interesting, because at the end of the day, if we can get founders more interested in their financial literacy, we're going to have better founders and better businesses.
Yes, definitely. And businesses that last forever, as long as you want them to.
Totally. And that's a really interesting thing too. Like I just come back to your, like, what's the intention for the business? Like, yeah, is it that you want to have this business forever, or is it that you want to sell it, like, or whatever? Like, again, the decisions you make from a finance and strategic point of view are going to be totally different depending on what outcome you want.
Yeah, 100%.
That's so good. So what's next for you guys? What do you have coming up?
Oh my gosh. I have so many ideas.
I love it.
I'm trying to work out what would best like serve like more people. Like I'm currently trying to understand what everyone wants. I'm trying to work on like a group, kind of another course, like around, but more kind of one-on-one mentoring kind of sessions on kind of like 4 kind of meetings a year to discuss financial strategy and budgeting, and come back to that.
That's cool.
That's my big goal for the new year. Yeah.
I love it. That's awesome. All right. So let's leave our fabulous Spark community with one tip. So what would be, I guess putting your business owner hat and maybe your finance hat on. So if you could give new female founders, a piece of advice, as they're starting up their business, what would that be?
Just, oh my goodness.
There's too many pieces of advice to give, isn't it?
I would just start with the end in mind. That's a quote from a book, but that's my favorite thing I like to talk about actually when I start my sessions.
Well, I love it so much because it circles back literally to where we started this podcast session, which is that. And I love it. It's so funny. I always, you always talk to people who are kind of like say the things that you need to hear. And I literally just came out of a coaching session and wrote down on my piece of paper, like this business that I'm working on. I was like, oh, you need to set it up so that it's ready to sell. And it's not something that I'd thought about before. So I'm like, I literally have goosebumps that we're now sitting here going, start with the end in mind and set it up correctly. So I think that is absolutely incredible advice. And even if you're a startup listening in and you haven't done that, just take some time to actually think about where it's going and the outcome you want so that you can start taking those steps.
Yes.
I love it. You are the best, Jaimie. Thank you so much for spending your time. Cheers for coming on Spark TV. I really appreciate you sharing your wisdom and your story with the Spark community.
No worries. Thank you.